here is a lock that I got from China, so this is what it looks like. Get some good lighting on it so it focuses. So yeah, I'm just experimenting with this other camera I have. Not quite used to it since it uses autofocus as opposed to the manual focus that I'm used to. So this lock is a little bit like a BiLock because of the fact that you get the 2 rows of pins, which if you take a look over here, just show you that. As you can tell, get 2 rows of pins, 5 pins on each side, so that makes 10 pins in total. So I'll show you, this is what the key looks like. Now the key, to me, it looks more like a ASA twin key as opposed to a BiLock key, because a BiLock key is basically a key with like 2 blades where you have them cut. This one instead, it actually has a blade, and then it has a smaller blade type of thing, but it's not really a blade, it's actually just part of the one-piece construction of the key. And it's more like an ASA twin because of the fact that if you take an ASA twin key, you get the same thing. You get a cut, blade, and you, just like this key, and you also get the milling area, which is, see over there. So this key, this lock is fairly high security. It's not really high security. I'll show you the key. It works perfectly, and it's really nice. It is basically like a BiLock, except it's all pin tumblers. So unfortunately, this isn't a picking video, but since not very many other lock pickers show this kind of stuff, I'm actually going to show you guys how to duplicate one of these keys. But just before that, I'm going to show you guys a picture of the blanks and key, and I'll just talk about how the duplication of these keys are done.
Come on now. Come on now. You did the dirt and you also did the swine.
So today what I've got here is the Chinese BiLock. It's not really a BiLock, but it is Chinese. And so the reason why it's like a BiLock is because of the fact that it again has 2 rows of pins. And so the key, as you can tell, this is the original key. It works perfectly. And the key kind of looks like this. So the problem with these keys is that they can be a little bit hard to duplicate, since you have to cut these 2 rows of pins, and you can't really do it just on a standard machine. And so for this, I'll be using the one-swing machine. And the way we cut this is, if you take a look at the key, you actually have a top row of pins, and not just, you also have the bottom row. And so the first thing you do is that you take the top row, you make sure that the cuts are actually facing to the left, and you stick it into the vise. Now, you could just stick it in all the way since there is a shoulder stop, but the problem is the machine just won't be able to cut all of the key. It won't go all the way back. So the way you do it is, you lower the cutter like so, just until it kind of goes into the area where the key would go into for the vise. So if you take a look over there. And then afterwards, you take the depth locking knob, which is right here, and you turn it counterclockwise until it's tight, so this way the depth handle will not move. So what you do is you actually put the key in just so that the shoulder sits on top. Then you tighten the vise like so, and you would bring this all the way back. Now if you realize that what happens is that it just slides all the way back and it doesn't stop at the shoulder, you'll loosen the depth locking knob again, you lower it just enough so that it can touch the shoulder. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to actually use the cutter and the tracer. So if you take a look, the tracer actually butts against the rectangular portion of the shoulder. So yeah, so we can see that. And the next thing to do is that you do the same thing on the blank, except the blank has no cuts at all on the key. You do this by sticking all the way in. You stick the key in all the way in, and until it stops. Do not try to push it further, don't force it, just let it butt against there. Now once you do this, you will be able to make sure that your cutter and your tracer is aligned. And Because of that, we can rest assured that the key will cut properly. So to begin the cutting process, what we do is, of course, before anything else, you want to wear eye protection, otherwise that eye will go away. So anyway, what you do is you start the machine, you start the cutter, and you carefully bring the tracer and the cutter towards the key. If you take a look, I actually, because it's mounted on the left, what I do is that I would actually start from the tip of the key and just go slowly and trace towards the shoulder of the key. So we carefully go back. We don't want to go too fast again because that will wear the cutter out. Especially on the deeper cuts, we always want to make sure that those cuts are accurately made. This is only the first pass, so don't worry if you don't take enough material away. Now what you do is that you again bring this to the tip, you cut it like so, and you trace every one of the cuts. Once more, just to make sure that we have all the cuts made. So now we know that all of the cuts have been made. We can turn the machine off, take the key, and if you take a look, actually it hasn't cut all the way through. Now how do we fix this problem? We again align the shoulder again. We align the shoulders like so. You don't want to force it, you just want to let it stop. Then you want to loosen the depth locking knob again, and you want to actually tighten it again. You want to lower it, and so now what will happen is that we will actually have this properly aligned. So once we do that, we can start the machine again starting at the tip, and then you just mow the key again, and you just go back into the cuts where it didn't go all the way. We should have a key that's complete. And so usually you can just brush off the burrs and it should be good. Okay, so the second step of the key is of course, after brushing off all the burrs of the first step of cuts, you want to again repeat the process of aligning the shoulders. So the way it's easier, actually, you can just lower it down like so all the way, and then after you just push it until it stops with the original key. You want to make sure it completely stops. Then you lock the depth locking knob, making sure that the cutter and the guide doesn't move. For this one, I forgot to mention, the top teeth over here actually have to be facing to the right, so that this way, this area where we're going to mill the key is going to be facing upward. And so what you do is, you would want to raise this a little bit, again, and then you just want to raise it, you just want to lower it enough so that it touches the shoulder. You don't want to lower it too much. And so once you get that in, again you repeat the process of aligning the shoulder by just pushing this all the way. Do not force it, you will damage the key or the cutter or both. And just tighten it firmly. Do not tighten it too much. And so the next step is actually quite simple. You just lower the cutter and the guide all the way down, and then you release just a little bit, so that this way you don't break the key or damage anything else. So for this one, again, because of the fact that we are cutting on the left side, we're going to start from the tip and go down. And so I'll show you guys how to do that right now. So what you do is, you start the machine, and then you want to actually mill down. You want to start milling downward. Now this one we actually set the cutter a little bit too low, so we're going to lift this up a little bit, and we're going to start the cutter. And we're going to go slowly, actually. We're going to go fairly slowly. As you can tell, it's milling downward. And you want to be really careful. This will jump because you're going the same way as the cutter. So so the key can always jump, and that's not a good thing. So you want to make sure it's very much controlled. So again, you go at the tip. You want to mill this properly, and once you mill it properly, you keep going back and forth to make sure that the key is cut properly. And so once you do that, you can actually take the key out of the machine. And if you notice, actually, you take a look at the tip here. The problem is that we didn't cut that properly. So we're actually going to move the key backward just a little bit. And we're going to make sure that we can get to the tip. Then we're going to go back and we're going to realign the shoulders like we did before. So again, we just put the key blank in properly. And then because we already have the shoulder, or we have the cutter down, we can release it. Then lock the depth locking knob, go all the way to the tip. And once you get to there, you can start the machine again and cut the key slowly. I'm going to raise the cutter just a little bit. So that we can cut properly and try not to make a mess. So, I'm gonna keep going. And we're gonna keep running through the key actually. Until all the cuts have been made. And the way you know that, the way you find out whether or not the key has been cut properly is when you run over the key, you should not hear any more cutting noises. You can tell we're taking away more material every time we pass it through. And that seems pretty good. So we're going to turn off the machine. We're going to dump the shavings, and then we're going to take something just to scrape off all of those burrs. We don't want burrs in the lock, so we have to make sure that we scrape them off properly. So once all of the burrs have been taken off, there's your new key. And just for the video's sake, I'm going to test the key and see if it works. And as you can tell, it works without a hitch. Turn it over to the other side, and as you can tell, it works like butter. So yeah, that's all there is to it. That's how you cut one of these keys. And just remember, take it slowly, and also clean off the burrs really nicely, and you will have a great looking key. So thanks for watching, and please keep it legal.